3 weeks ago, the world was actually normal. But now, instead of living, breathing humans, there are undead zombies roaming the streets like it's the freaking apocalypse. A guy dressed in serious protective gear stocks up on supplies while the zombie freaks keep moving around in a trance-like state. And even when he finally goes outside, they're still quite oblivious to his presence and go around doing their normal zombie business. He casually makes his way through the crowd of zombies without any care whatsoever that those things eat brains for breakfast, and even goes as far as dissing them openly. The zombies themselves show no reaction to his presence or his loud dissing, and even when he bumps into one of them, it just growls and continues on its way, not knowing what it hit or what hit it. Its eyes and ears obviously have a factory defect, and our dude is sure to take advantage of that little factor. He reveals that the zombies only react to smell, so as long as he completely covers his scent, he should be safe. He is vexed by the fact that nobody figured this out in time, which led to the human race's untimely wipeout, as everyone gave up without even trying to find a solution. He honestly can't tell who's dumber at this point, humanity itself or the zombies. And meanwhile, a figure observes him from a building above. He notices the zombie and is shocked to the core to see it make direct eye contact with him, with the creepiest smile that would make Freddy Krueger look like a cartoon character. Our dude looks around in disbelief, and when he looks back, the zombie isn't up there anymore. It's now coming down, using an elevator, which only scares him even more. Zombies are supposed to be very low-level beings with an inability to use any senses apart from smell, but he's looking at this freaking monster walk towards him like it's nothing, even with his shotgun pointed directly at its face, and still with that hella creepy smile. Our dude knows he's wearing all his safety gear and there's no way his scent is leaking, so he is very confused, but he brushes it off and prepares to shoot. The other zombies are still quite dumb as they should be, so maybe this one is just the odd one out. He shoots, and the freak actually dodges, which shocks our guy, but he has military experience, so he does a quick manual reload and fires again, brushing his first miss off as luck. This time his attack actually hits, but just a bit. The zombie is not affected in the slightest and even grins more, as if its smiling wasn't creepy enough. He tries to reload, but the zombie has already gotten too close and hurls a bottle at him, which misses and smashes on the ground instead, but the contents, blood, splash all over our dude. This is very bad because it will activate the one thing these zombies can perceive, which is scent. And just like the smart zombie planned, the others immediately rush towards our guy like hungry animals to their next meal. In a note, we see where someone jotted down important facts, like the first zombie being seen 3 weeks ago, the zombies being sensitive only to smell, especially that of blood, and the fact that intelligent zombies do exist, a fact our dude, who is now running for his life, unfortunately, wasn't aware of. He tries shooting at them, but there are just too many, and soon they back him into a corner. Things start looking dire for our dude until he spots an exit gate, which he uses immediately and locks with a simple bolt. The zombies can't get through because while they might smell him, they're still too dumb to work a simple bolt. Things are looking better until the smart zombie comes from nowhere and unlocks the door from outside, letting his wonderful siblings through. The man decides to retreat and heads for his car, which is thankfully nearby, and he reveals that the students back at the school will be at risk if this continues. Meanwhile, the intelligent zombie picks up keywords from his statement, like students in school, and his devilish smile returns, signifying that it's up to no good. At the school, the captain is giving the students a crash course on how to defend themselves against zombies, and he teaches them never to swing a bat, as the zombies can easily get them that way. Instead, they should hit them square in the mouth to take off their head in one fair swoop. He also warns them not to go full berserk mode on them because those monsters don't die easily. And when a student asks if he has ever actually battled one before, he admits that he hasn't, and advises them to avoid confrontation at all costs. Some students think it's ridiculous that someone with no experience at all is teaching them how to fight, and Jae Seong Cheon honestly doesn't know how much of these useless lessons he can take, especially since they're not going to be anywhere near the zombies anyway. Seong-hun, his buddy, also regrets coming to school and is dismayed because the school didn't bother to send them a closing notice, even when the world is literally falling apart, which is why 50 of the students showed up to school instead of staying at home where it's safer. Soyeon, who's tired of being in this dump, asks the captain how much longer they have to eat raisins, and he mistakes her for being worried about the amount, so he assures her there's more than enough for months, which only adds to her despair. It's not just her. All the students are tired of their situation, with no signal to reach their parents and quench their worry. The two boys aren't worried about that though, because for some reason they're confident that the zombies can't get into their homes. Anyway, the students turn to the captain, and he assures them that rescue is on the way, which is why he came in the first place. He even tells them that once they're rescued and school resumes, they'll continue with their midterms, which is just crazy. His words do little to calm the students, and Jae Seong Cheon decides to play a prank on his buddy by pretending to bite him just like the zombies do. He has the creepiest face ever, and Seong-hun is actually horrified by this, but Jae Seong Cheon just laughs it off. His laughing must have caught the attention of the captain and annoyed him, because the next second, he pulls the teacher card and calls Jae Seong Cheon up to come demonstrate what he just taught. Jae wonders why he's always the one being called out, especially when he wasn't the only one laughing in the first place. He is handed the bat, and all he has to do is murder the mannequin like the captain did earlier. Meanwhile, a student informs Seong-hoon that it's his turn to be lookout on the rooftop. And of course, Jay totally flops the demonstration, doing the one thing that the captain told them not to do when attacking a zombie, which is swinging your weapon. Seong-hun heads to the rooftop, where he sees a pretty girl just standing there. Seong-hun quavers with male hormones as he can't believe that the so pretty Yeon-A is standing before him. She greets him and requests to stay a bit longer, which he has absolutely no problem with. Turns out he had always taken the same bus with her, although he doubts she ever noticed him. He has had a huge crush on her since then and sometimes secretly wished that bus was the only thing left in this world so they could be together forever, which is just a new level of creepy. They spend some time together on the roof, and the whole time our boy is blushing like crazy. They bond as they stare at the beautiful sunset and the disgusting zombies wandering around in the streets. She then reveals her theory of the zombies not being truly dead since they're still moving, and that the world hasn't really changed since the sun is setting like it always has. Seong-hun thinks all this is absolute baloney, especially when she refers to the zombies as actual people. She tries to explain that zombies are just labels they gave the victims of this incident, and that nobody really knows what could be going on in their minds, or if they still hold a grudge against the person that bit them against their will. Our MC Seong-hun doesn't agree with her, but immediately regrets it, as this obviously upsets her. Just as he begins to worry that disagreeing with her will make her dislike him, they're interrupted by what sounds like the loud screeching of a car from a Fast and Furious movie. They're shocked to see their school nurse driving like an absolute maniac, running over any zombies in his path. Turns out it's the same guy in protective gear who had trouble with a certain intelligent zombie. His crazy driving leads him to hit a tree, and the zombies start gathering around him. But when he tries to get out, his pants get stuck on the car seat. This immobilizes him for a second, and the zombies, sniffing the blood on his suit, rush in to attack. They're tripping if they think he's going down that easily, as he rips out of his pants, dodges the zombie attacks, and makes a run for the school fence, which he successfully gets over. The kids rush downstairs and inform the captain about the nurse's return. They let him into the school building, thankful that the zombies that followed him can't get through the school fence. He takes off his mask and sprays himself with something that looks like bug spray. The zombies are still noisy outside, which annoys the hell out of him, so he takes out his shotguns and blows out the brains of one of them, shooting through the window in front of the students. The captain isn't a big fan of this, but the nurse reminds him that these zombies may one day somehow break into the school, and he wouldn't know what to do then. He couldn't care less about the opinion of someone who only yaps in class and has never actually faced a zombie, so he proceeds to diss the captain in front of the students. Coughs from Seong-hun interrupt him, and then he goes full nurse mode, remembering that he has asthma and giving him some pills for it. The nurse warns him that the drug may give him insomnia as a side effect, but he takes it anyway and feels instant relief. He has always had symptoms on and off as a kid, and he left his inhaler at home, but the event makes Yeon-A show some concern about his health, so our boy takes it as a huge win. Just then, the sound of a car heading towards the school grabs everyone's attention. At first they think it's a survivor, but the nurse knows it definitely isn't. We get a quick note again, with a recap of everything going on in the school, including how 50 students came without knowing they'd be trapped, how they only have nasty emergency rations to last them a month, and how the PE teacher, who's also their captain, and the school nurse aren't best pals. The nurse is the first to see who is actually driving the car, and is horrified at the sight of a zombie driving a bus towards the school, so he tells everyone to run for it. The zombie drives right through the school gate, creating a VIP entrance for the others, and the captain orders everyone to get to the higher floors. The nurse recognizes this zombie as the intelligent one that gave him trouble earlier, and the other zombies don't hesitate to use the beautiful entrance it just created. He tries to shoot at it, but it escapes, and the zombies are now slipping through, so he focuses on buying the students time to get to the higher floors. The zombies are relentless, and the nurse tries his best, but he can't keep all of them off, so once the students are ahead, he makes a run for it together with the captain. He even ends up saving the captain's life, and that near-death experience leaves the man shaken to the core. Unfortunately, the zombies get to some students and start feasting on them like it's an all-you-can-eat human buffet. It's all madness and chaos as more students fall victim and become zombie dinner, and eventually they reach our boy Jae Seong-cheon, who ironically has the same bat the captain wanted him to use to demonstrate what he taught them. For very obvious reasons, he doesn't look so cocky anymore. Like the dumb brat he is, he totally ignores his teacher's instructions and swings the bat like a maniac, leading to the zombies eating his fingers off. That's the end for him and many other students who were still in the class. The rest of the students manage to reach the higher floors, where the school nurse is waiting for them. Seong-hun is already there too, but he turns back to see his precious Yeon-A in trouble with zombies hot on her trail. A zombie leaps over and scratches her leg, leaving her bleeding and completely immobilized. The nurse senses what Seong-hun is considering and warns him to let her go, as it's already too late to save her. Our MC is stuck between two very hard choices. He can either save himself or risk it all to go back and save her. He makes what's probably the dumbest decision in this entire story and goes after the girl despite the nurse's warnings. He begs him for just 3 seconds, but the nurse declines and threatens to shut the door, as he can't risk the lives of everybody just for one person. After a few seconds of thought, Seong-hun goes to save her anyway, and the nurse shuts the door just like he said he would. Our dumb hero rushes in and gives the zombie attacking his girl a flying kick to the face, buying them some time. She explains that she's injured, but there's no time to attend to that, so he drags her across the hall to the nearest empty classroom and shuts the door, but not before he gets a glance at his dear old pal, Jae Seong Cheon, now looking awfully green, zombified, and eager to attack them. This leaves him extremely distressed, and the panic triggers his asthma again, but luckily he still has one more asthma pill, which brings instant relief like before. It's then he realizes how deep in trouble they are, as the zombies have surrounded the entire class and are almost breaking through the glass. He's relieved they at least have a few minutes to catch their breath, but that relief is cut short when a zombie appears from behind and bites him. He is beyond mortified to see his dear Yeon-A, now a zombie, tearing off and chewing down on his skin like it's chicken tenders, and is confused as to when exactly she got bit. That doesn't matter now, as he is now among the bitten and falls unconscious almost immediately. When the other zombies stop sensing life, they stop surrounding the classroom and start walking around like NPCs in a terrible video game, just like they normally do. Meanwhile, students who were previously bitten start to resurrect from the dead and make new zombies. We get another note that explains what happens once you get bitten. You die, your blood clots, and you return as a zombie in under 10 to 30 minutes. It also states that you can get infected through bites or injuries. A piece of information our MC probably wishes he knew. Speaking of our boy, he resurrects from the dead all green and creepy like our other zombie friends, as his 10 to 30 minutes are up. Seong-hun wakes up with a splitting headache and no memory whatsoever. He is quickly losing his sight. All he can make out of this entire situation is the fact that he's now a zombie, and it's becoming very difficult for him to walk or even move at all. He feels like he's trapped, but then again he doesn't even know what being trapped means anymore, and suddenly he doesn't know what he is or why he is here. He's losing his consciousness little by little, and soon there's nothing but pitch darkness all around him. He can't feel, see, or hear anything. Meanwhile, back in the class, the students are still very much shaken and bawling their eyes out, and the nurse orders them to report how many people had survived. They do a head count and report that only 19 out of the 50 students have survived. He puts on a tough face and demands that anyone who was hurt or bitten identify themselves, and when he is sure the coast is clear, he orders 2 students to stand guard. He also commands them to quit their yapping, as that could leak their scent, and to shut all the windows and doors of the classes. The troubled students ask if they're stuck on the second floor, but he assures them that since the food is all on the second floor, they'll be fine. Besides, the rescue team will come for them in a helicopter, so it will be easier for them to access the rooftop from the second floor anyway. The students are heartbroken as they count their losses, some realizing that their friends are gone while others are relieved to see some still alive. This display breaks something inside their captain, so he tries to cheer them up and bring a rainbow to their day like a kid's cartoon mascot, promising them a sense of normality once they make it out of here, and assuring them that they will make it out alive. It actually works, and the mood brightens for a bit, but right after that they plunge back into a sea of depression and despair. An order from the nurse to close all the windows interrupts them, and they immediately do as they're told as the sun begins to set. Later at night, one of the students takes a peek outside and spots our brat Jae Seong, now a zombie, just chilling on the lawn, standing perfectly still. Another student joins him, and they recognize some of their other classmates in the assembly of zombies that are just standing right outside, unable to see them. The thought of becoming just like one of those zombies sends shivers down their spines, and one of the brat students, who is obviously a bully, orders Haeon-ho to shut the windows. He tries to remind him of his place and assert dominance, but Haeon-ho recalls quite fondly how he screamed like a girl that just got her hair appointment canceled when the zombies were chasing them. Meanwhile, outside the school, a human girl is lurking around, unprotected. Back on the first floor, Shong-hoon is standing still with his zombie girlfriend, and to him it feels like he's sinking deeper and deeper into a whirlpool of darkness as he continues to lose his consciousness until there's nothing left. Then suddenly, he perceives an oddly familiar smell, a smell that reminds him of the first day Yeon-A had talked to him. They were on the school bus, and they were very late. The smell was from her girly shampoo, for she had not had enough time to dry her hair that day, and when they arrived at the school, she told him to stick by her so as not to get on the headmaster's bad side. True to that, the headmaster was dishing out demerits for tardy students like Santa Claus with presents, but he brightened up when he saw his star student walk in, and he was worried when she told him that she had hurt her leg on the way. Seong-hun had risked going late to help her. She lied to save her skin and that of Seong-hun, and that was the first act of kindness she ever showed him. That is the scent he is perceiving now, and it reminds him of his precious Yeon-A. He can remember her now, clear as day, but she is still a zombie with no consciousness whatsoever. He can see a bit, but it is still blurry, and he can move, but he is still shaky and wobbly. He reaches an obstruction in his path, which he recognizes as a door. It takes a few attempts, but he finally figures out how to work it and opens it, entering the hallway full of his fellow zombie kin. We see another fun little note, this time explaining what comes after zombification. Rapid decline in intelligence and physical abilities. No speech, no consciousness, no memories, just a heightened sense of smell. Everything is basically reset. Just then, the zombies start picking up on a smell at the same time, and they go crazy and rush towards it. Meanwhile, Seung-hoon is confused as to what is wrong with them until he perceives the smell as well. Then he absolutely loses it and goes full zombie mode. Seung-hoon feels a rush of energy as his neurons begin to activate. His heart suddenly starts beating and his cells react, causing a spike of adrenaline that takes control of his entire body, so he's ready to attack. The zombies are all rushing toward a single target, the girl sneaking around the school, and they find her and surround her as she climbs the fence. The zombies are relentless, and just as the girl realizes she's in trouble, they rapidly increase in number. And our dude Seung-hoon is there too. The zombies start to make their way up the fence, and as she takes a step backward toward the edge, a zombie pulls down on her shoe, making her lose her balance and trip over the fence into the pool of zombies just waiting to devour her. Luckily, she catches herself just before she hits the ground and manages to escape instant zombification. We see a small vein of green behind her ear as she uses one of the zombies' faces as a stepping block to lift herself back up the fence, and Seung-hoon leaps over the horde in an attempt to attack her, but a hot kick to the face from her sends him flying right back from where he came. She uses this opportunity to make a clean escape, jumping from the fence over the zombies and landing on the vents, then onto the school bus, then making her way to the side of the building. The zombies can't climb, so they can't reach her there. From the side of the building, she makes her way slowly and carefully, traversing until she reaches the class window, where she knocks and politely asks the boy on duty, Hae-on-ho, to let her in. Seung-hoon is still on the floor, with liquid leaking from his face, which he recognizes as blood. The fiasco is finally beginning to calm down now, including the fast heart rate, the explosive rage, and the fleeting hints of feeling alive for a moment there. Just a minute ago, every zombie was running toward a single target like a group of ants toward a dropped lollipop, but now there is peace and stillness like it never even happened. Everything has gone back to normal, back to being dead. But just like them, his heart isn't beating either, although he still has thoughts, so he wonders if he's truly dead or alive, or maybe a little bit of both. He remembers a lesson his teacher once taught him about Schrödinger's cat theory, which states that when a cat is in a box where it has a 50% chance of living, it is neither dead nor alive, yet at the same time, it is both until someone opens the box. This never quite made sense to him because he believed that if the cat actually had the will to live, it would jump out of the box to prove it's alive. His buddy Jae-seong disagreed with him because the cat is still just a cat, and cats like boxes, so it would never jump out on its own. He, of course, got punished like usual for talking in class, but that memory stuck with him, and is coming to our MC now of all times. Seung-hoon starts to believe he's actually alive because he has the will to live, so he takes one step and then another, and starts his journey back home. We get another note that explains what happens when the zombies smell human blood. Their cells begin to react, and the low blood pressure leads to a decrease in temperature, which makes them pale. But once the smell is gone, the heart and pulse stop again, and they return to normal. The nurse is at a corner trying to catch some Z's, but his trusty shit gets very close to him when he hears the sliding of the window. Hae-on-ho had let the strange girl in, but before she can land on her feet, his gun is already pointed square at her face. He doesn't remember giving anyone permission to let anybody in, and he orders Hae-on-ho to explain what the hell is going on. Hae-on-ho reports that the girl claimed to be a survivor, but the nurse isn't at all convinced and orders her to prove she hasn't been bitten, putting her on the spot. As the nurse holds the strange girl at gunpoint, she acts surprisingly calm about the whole matter, talking about how guns are probably the strongest weapons against zombies and totally ignoring the fact that there's one pointed at her face at the moment. She grabs the gun's muzzle and points it to her head directly, daring him to pull the trigger if he doesn't trust her, since they're all going to become zombie chowder anyway. It's better to go once and clean, or maybe he'd like to waste a bullet on a human. When he senses the lack of fear in her eyes, he lets her go, warning everyone else never to go against his orders again and threatening to kick out anyone who lets anybody else in again as a form of exchange. The girl can't believe someone so ruthless and barbaric is a teacher for children, but he shrugs that there's no harm in being extra careful, then reveals that there's actually an intelligent zombie out there. She recognizes it, and that stops the nurse in his tracks and drags back his attention. The girl explains her situation to the nurse and the captain, and it turns out that she and some other people had hidden in a highly secure building, as they were aware that zombies weren't very intelligent and didn't react much to sounds. You could only access the building if you knew the passcode, so they were sure they were safe from any zombies. She and a few other residents of the apartment all gathered on the roof, waiting to be rescued. But that's when they saw someone pass by on a motorcycle who looked like a survivor. He wore a helmet so they couldn't see his face, but since he was covered, they assumed he was hiding his scent. Being the kind folks they were, they decided to let him in and tell him the passcode, not knowing they had just invited the literal devil to their abode. He inputted the passcode and gained access to the building, and only after he entered did he reveal his true nature with that same creepy smile. The nurse recognizes him as the same one who attacked them the day before, making them lose access to the first floor of the school. The girl had never thought a zombie could disguise itself like that, and once it entered the building, it pulled pretty much the same stunt it pulled on the nurse while he was gathering supplies. It pulled out a bottle filled with human blood and spilled it in the building. The scent immediately did its magic, attracting all the zombies in the area as he left. Seong-hun now stands in front of his building, and once he goes inside, he sees nothing but bloodstains all over the place like a juicy crime scene. As he staggers his way up the stairs, the girl continues her story back at the school. Her building was soon swarmed with zombies, and they had nothing like guns, so they were basically sitting ducks. But her quick thinking led her to jump to the other building for safety. She gestured to her friends to follow her, but they were all old geezers who were more than a little out of shape, and no matter how much she begged them to at least try, they just couldn't do it. Soon the zombies reached the roof where they were, and although they tried as much as they could to defend themselves as one would expect, there's only so much a group of old men can do to a swarm of active, raging zombies. They told her to go on without them, and she had no other choice but to watch in horror as her dear elderly friends were ripped apart by ruthless zombies before she took to her heels, running blindly in search of a building with survivors. Last night, she saw a light coming from the school window, and that's how she got here. This entire story only reinforces the nurse's harsh mindset and drive not to sacrifice the lives of everyone just to save one person. And he realizes that the intelligent zombie is not just attacking randomly, but is strategically finding places with survivors and leading zombies to attack them. The girl doesn't know much about the cunning monster apart from this, but she does have some information about the rescue party that they're all depending on to save them. Meanwhile, Seong-hun finally makes it up the building and into his apartment, and he's shocked to see that the door is wide open, with no single soul in sight, and the apartment looks like it has already been attacked. He had thought that high-rise buildings like these would be the most secure, but as he senses a fellow zombie nearby, he realizes they might have severely underestimated the intelligence of these monsters. He reckons that if he has retained his intelligence, then there's got to be others like him. Then there are his parents. Even though they've probably joined the zombie party by now, they ought to be somewhere out there. Then we see another note, this time talking about the school nurse and the intelligent zombies. The nurse is an ex-military soldier who would rather spend time talking about the Marines than actually teaching, with a weird hobby of hunting with a gun that nobody knows where he got from. The two dumb bullies of the class get the bright idea to sneak out and open the window, itching to have one or two puffs now that they have the chance since the adults are all having a meeting. Plus, it's their last roll, so they're sure going to make it count. They destroy their organs with smoke as they casually chat about how the new hot chick stuck it to the intimidating nurse earlier on. Just then, they overhear the adults talking about how there's no rescue party coming for them, which is when he hears that the rescue team won't be combing through the city in search of survivors. Apparently, the number of survivors hasn't been identified, but there will be a transport plane landing at a nearby Air Force base, so all they have to do is get there safely and on time, and they should be on their way out of Zombie Town. All of this, of course, being very shocking news to the bully. As Haeyeon-ho returns from an errand to get food, he overhears the bullies talking about what they heard the adults saying. Hong-jun is the guy who did the eavesdropping, and he reveals to Jun-jae that there's no rescue party, and that a plane is going to land in the military airport, although they don't know when. The two dumb bullies cook up the not-so-bright idea to ditch the school and make a run for the airport themselves, as they are now convinced that the nurse can't keep them safe like he promised. Just then, they notice the brat that was sent to get them bread, aka Haeyeon-ho. So they collect the bread from him and begin to dig in, but they hate it and scold him for it. And the terrible bread is the last straw for them, reinforcing their decision to take their bikes and get the hell out of that place. The Air Force is near Seongnam, and there's an airport and Air Force installation there too. Haeyeon-ho finds the courage to voice his request to follow them, and they're not too eager about the idea of him tagging along on their little death trip. He tries to use the fact that he knows the way to the station by heart, and even throws in the fact that he's the 5th smartest in the entire school. He promises to help them evade the zombies with his brains, but they take his words as an insult rather than a plea. Hong-jun actually finds a reason to let him tag along, but it's not the reason Haeyeon-ho was hoping for. The bully reckons that he'd be perfect as an offering sacrifice to the zombies if they ever get caught. And all this doesn't scream red light to Haeyeon-ho for some reason, because he still goes with it. Meanwhile, the adults are still discussing, and the new girl reveals that the plane will arrive tomorrow before sunset. She requests to remain in the school till then, and the captain accepts. She needs a place to crash because she learned the hard way that traveling in the daytime is way safer than at night. But the nurse isn't thrilled that she's staying without giving them much useful information. The girl really can't believe that a guy could be such a jerk face all the time. The captain asks if she's planning on going alone, and she reveals that she doesn't intend to stop whoever wants to follow her, even though it would be a burden. The nurse inquires if she plans to take all the students with her. She reminds him that she's not forcing anyone to follow her, but informs him that the plane would be big enough to carry them all, the only problem being how to transport all the students there safely. He questions the reliability of her intel, so she informs him that there's a US Air Force base at Songnam, which is where the US troops are being withdrawn. He continues to question her intentions, obviously denying her his trust, but she reminds him that in their situation, holding anyone responsible is just plain stupid, and all they can really do is take bets on the highest chances of survival. The captain tries to come between both of them and explain to the girl that the nurse just doesn't want to put anybody in danger, but the girl reminds them of the harsh reality that anywhere is dangerous no matter where it is. The nurse then informs her that they're safest here because he is personally keeping it safe for them. Just then, they're distracted by the sounds of engines and are dismayed to see 3 of the students leave the school on their bikes. The nurse concludes that they must have overheard them talking and decides to use them as lab guinea pigs to test if it's actually safe to go out there or if they'd come crawling back. Haeon-ho and the gang speed off on the bikes, successfully escaping from the school, and he's worried that they're too exposed and their scent may begin to leak. But the bullies are pretty confident that the zombies would catch up to them only in their dreams. They zoom past and manage to avoid their schoolmates, now zombies. And Hong-jun can't seem to understand why the adults and others were so afraid of these useless creatures. Junjae is having the time of his life without his helmet, with his face in the air like a dog sticking its head out of the car on a road trip. He's so distracted that he doesn't notice a zombie in time, and they only miss it by a hair. After that, Hong-jun hits the brakes when he sees a better ride with the keys still on it, and the owner is long gone, so he can't pass up the chance to take that sweet bike. Meanwhile, Junjae notices something even better, an abandoned clothing store. So while the zombies are roaming the streets, they take a short break and visit the store. Haeon-ho isn't sure about wasting time like this, but the bullies are busy having a shopping spree and trying on different outfits that they couldn't afford, even in their next life. Meanwhile, the zombies are starting to pick up on their scent and gather around the shop, and Haeon-ho is now starting to panic, but the bullies ignore him like he's on mute or something. The zombies actually break into his horror, but the bullies pull him out of the way and face the zombies themselves, now wearing protective hockey gear. They beat the hell out of the zombies and are genuinely shocked at how easy it is to take them out. This gives them morale, so they hop on their bikes, play some hard music, and go on a zombie-killing frenzy, smashing any zombie they encounter with their hockey sticks. It's almost like a video game for them, and it's quite exciting for Junjae until they encounter a familiar zombie. We get another note, this time explaining to us how there are many cars abandoned on the street due to the rapid spread of the virus, and how motorcycles or small cars are the best choices for getting around. Haeon-ho recognizes the zombie as our Song-hun, but Junjae doesn't care and goes on to attack him like he would any other zombie. Junjae goes on to attack, but Haeon-ho uses all his might to bend the bike, and it nearly loses balance, so he misses bashing in Song-hun's face by just a hair and loses his hockey stick in the process, but is able to regain balance and continue moving. He yells at Haeon-ho for almost getting them killed, but Haeon-ho confesses that he recognizes that particular zombie from his class, and the only thing stopping the bully from giving him a beating is the fact that he is the one driving the bike. Hong-jun reminds him that they need him to lead the way, and he gives accurate directions to the annoyance of Junjae, so he has to let it slide. Seong-hun, on the other hand, breaks down and starts bawling his eyes out, saddened by his helplessness and inability to do anything. He can't move or feel pain or scream, even though he really wants to. He may be crying, but the feelings of sadness don't exist, as he feels absolutely nothing. And he realizes that he's neither dead nor alive. As he wanders aimlessly through the streets, he reckons that he doesn't feel alive. Then he wishes that that guy had just finished the job as he looks at some dead zombies, because at least then, he would have had a peaceful end. There's nothing he can do in this state other than make weird noises and react to the smell of blood. Back at the school, the students stand in line to collect emergency rations, and they're not too excited to eat, but they really don't have a choice in the matter. Soo-jin, the new girl, helps them out, but the nurse has a problem with it because she's not a teacher, so she takes offense and lashes out at him, with the captain trying to mediate as usual. To his dismay, the captain discovers that they are beginning to run dangerously low on food. The captain is confused because he's sure that he had way more food stacked up, so he gives the rest of the students bread to compensate. And when the other students get a whiff of this, they conclude that they're running out of food. They also discuss how the delinquents Hong-jun and Junjae ran away together with Haeon-ho, and how they overheard that there's no rescue team coming for them. This initiates a sense of worry, and they begin to consider following in the bullies' footsteps. Meanwhile, the captain racks his brain because he's sure he secured at least 2 months' worth of food when the virus first started, but the nurse reminds him that some of it was left in the storage unit on the first floor. The captain then begs the nurse to go down and get it, since he is the one with the suit, but he refuses because it's way too dangerous and there's already blood on his gear. Soo-jin points out the fact that he has a gun, but the nurse informs her that his gun is meant for something else, and besides, there's no need to rush because it's not urgent. She's disappointed in his behavior, but the captain decides to suck it up and go down instead, and she's worried about him, but he reasons that it's his responsibility since it's technically his fault that it's still down there in the first place. He still regrets not being able to protect the kids the first time, so he decides to use this to make it up to them and actually be the superhero they think he is. He's radiating chivalry, and she's touched by it, so she lends him her perfume to hide his scent. but she warns him that it will not last for too long and wishes him good luck because he is definitely going to need it. As he leaves, the nurse disses him and goes into the class to assure the students not to worry about food, as he plans to go down and snag it once he gets an opportunity and gains their trust once again. The captain sneaks out and down the stairs with his trusty bat, and he runs into a zombie right away, but thanks to the perfume, the zombie can't sense him at all, and he evades it. He reaches the storage room and finds the food supplies exactly where he left them, and we get another note, this time explaining the zombie's weakness. Destroying the head completely, aka the brain, would end a zombie, but attacking any other part of the body won't, since they can't feel pain. Seong-hoon makes his way back to the school, still in a trance and desperately longing to escape his loneliness, even though he knows it's hopeless. He trips on his feet and falls face down to the ground, where he perceives a strong smell, which he recognizes as gasoline leaking from a nearby vehicle. He then hears strange laughter, and it's coming from his beloved zombified Yeon-A, and this alerts him. The fact that she can laugh may mean that she might still have emotions, and if so, there might just be a glimmer of hope. The delinquents ride on through the streets under Hyeon-ho's guidance, and Hong-jun notices how weird it is to see the subway not moving, but with lots of zombies trapped in it. It's actually kind of depressing and boring, so he tosses his hockey stick away, but Jun-jae, who had lost his, picks it up, still itching for more fun. The entire place is completely deserted of life and humans, and they probably would have never known this if they had just remained in the school. The zombies are still coming, and it's starting to get old for Hong-jun. Jun-jae, on the other hand, still has a lot of drive in him and continues smacking the zombies, even when Hong-jun tells him to chill out. He totally ignores Hong-jun and keeps smacking off zombie heads until Hong-jun threatens him, and that resets his senses like a cocky cat that just met its match. Meanwhile, the intelligent zombie spots them from a building with that normal twisted grin of his. Seong-hoon makes his way into the school and staggers to the school library. Meanwhile, the captain gains access to the storage room but hears footsteps that don't sound like a zombie, so he goes to check it out, only to discover that it is a zombie. It nearly senses him, so he reckons he'd better grab what he needs and get the hell out of here before the perfume runs out. Seong-hoon, on the other hand, is busy reading a book, and as he flips through the pages, deep inside his head, his neurons activate, and he realizes that his level of concentration has increased exponentially as he now absorbs information faster than a laptop by just scanning through the pages. If this had happened to him before now, getting good grades would have been a breeze, so he carries a mountain of books and begins to consume them like it's an all-you-can-read buffet. He reckons that, in reality, he is basically brain dead and all his bodily functions have been shut down, but his sense of smell is still intact, and his brain awakens when he smells people. This would explain why he awakened when he smelled Yeon-a's shampoo and why her consciousness activated because of the motorcycle Hong-jun was riding. What he can't comprehend, though, is why he is the only one who retained his intelligence, and why his learning ability is also skyrocketing. Then he remembers the asthma pills he took, and that the nurse had warned him of their stimulant properties. He realizes that he was bitten in a stimulated state since he had just taken the last pill, and that caused permanent effects on his zombified state. Meanwhile, the captain carefully makes his way back with some boxes of food, and the boxes take all his arm space, so he has to leave his trusty weapon behind. Just then, Seong-hoon starts smelling human again, and he goes beast mode, with his raging appetite coming back strongly like a reflex. The perfume must have worn off, and the captain has no idea of that, nor the fact that a zombie is already creeping behind him, ready to attack. It rushes toward the man, and by the time he notices, it has already closed the distance between them, so he drops the boxes in fear and tries to defend himself with his bare hands, then runs away the moment he gets the chance. The zombie is not far off, and it gets him and bites his shoulder, or at least he thinks it did, but it actually bit the shoulder of another zombie who got in the middle of them just in time. But he's still a zombie, so the captain is still freaked out by his presence. He uses a cloth to cover his nose and mouth, and when the other zombie tries to attack, he holds it back while the captain makes a run for his life. The captain doesn't understand what's going on, and doesn't want to stick around long enough to find out, so he dashes up the stairs to the door leading to the second floor and manages to escape, locking the door behind him. He takes a minute to reconcile with the fact that he just saw his life flash before his eyes multiple times, and that terrified the hell out of him. But what scares him even more is the knock that comes on the door shortly after. After a while, he carefully opens the door to see all the boxes he had dropped earlier, casually waiting for him at the doorstep with no single zombie in sight. Everyone can't believe he went downstairs all by himself to get the supplies and came back as a non-zombie, and he makes sure to rub it in the nurse's face as he receives praise from the students, although the nurse looks unfazed by the whole ordeal. Meanwhile, the real hero of the day, our MC Seong-hoon, walks away satisfied. In the streets, the delinquents and Hyun-ho are still cruising around, and Hong-jun is dismayed to spot a nice car that was wastefully left behind. Their joyride is cut short when a truck suddenly starts chasing them from nowhere. The truck doesn't care for traffic rules as it crashes into cars and runs them over like it's nothing, and the person driving it is none other than the intelligent zombie with his creepy as hell smile, chasing down the boys relentlessly. The truck is somehow catching up to them, probably because it's just smashing everything in its path. Meanwhile, the boys try to outrun it, but they can't smash through cars like it does, so they have to dodge them, and that slows them down. The truck flips a car over, and it lands on Junjae and Hyunho, throwing them off balance and onto the hard road. The intelligent zombie doesn't even slow down and continues to chase Hongjun until it eventually catches up to the poor fellow and knocks him off his bike, making him tumble and fall to the ground, barely missing getting flattened by the truck by just a few inches. The truck goes on ahead, and luckily nobody is taken out by that encounter, but all are severely injured, and Hongjun wants to know who the hell is the dummy that just ran them over, but is dismayed to see the truck stop in its tracks. The tailgate slowly open up, and a horde of zombies release towards them. They immediately take to their heels and try to run the other direction, but are horrified to see that there are other zombies coming from that side as well. They are in deep trouble now, as they realize that they are completely surrounded and they're on a bridge so they can't jump. But that's when Hyunho gets the brilliant idea to jump over the bridge railings and get to the other side. Hongjun thanks his stars that they decided to let him tag along, and they immediately start climbing. But Hongjun is taking his sweet time, and Junjae, who's in between him and the zombies, is really not a huge fan of it, so he yells at Hongjun to hurry up as the zombies are now getting dangerously close. Hongjun couldn't care less about what's happening behind him until he accidentally slips and ends up hanging onto the rail with just one arm, with a pool of very hungry zombies waiting for him at the bottom. He orders Junjae to help him up, but he hesitates and just watches him struggle, so he yells at him to help him. But then Junjae reminds him that he is in no position to be bossing people around right now, and they get into a hell of an argument before Hongjun truly realizes his situation. His yelling then turns into pleading for his life, but Junjae pulls the greatest betrayal move of all time and steps on Hongjun's fingers, making him lose his grip and fall to his doom, and it's like that one scene from The Lion King with Mufasa and Scar. But this time, instead of a stampede of wild animals, it's a horde of flesh-eating zombies that gladly welcome and make a good meal out of him. They climb their way to the top of the rails, and Hyunho informs him that they have to go down the other side, but the zombies are now beginning to catch up, so Hyunho thinks quickly on his feet, and has an idea to just slide down the rails instead of climbing down safely. Once he reaches the other side, he is met with a terrifying creature, the intelligent zombie, and he inquires as to where the young lad is heading, so he frighteningly informs it about the Seongnam airport. The zombie, being a gentleman, kindly offers the boy a ride, and we get another note, this time stating the characteristics of zombies when they actually smell blood, which are increased stamina, bodily functions, intelligence, and maybe emotions as well. Junjae, on the other hand, observes the zombie with horror as it loads the boy into a car like he is cargo, from still above the railings, but when the zombies finally catch up to him, he has no choice but to follow suit and slide down the rails as well. But on his way down, he hits some loose metal and tumbles down instead of sliding, and crash lands face first on the ground. He is later picked up by the intelligent zombie, and he can barely move, so he cannot fight back because he is very injured and weak, so all he can do is sit back and watch as the zombie drags him along, very happy with his find. When Hyunho finally comes to, he finds himself in a dark cage and is not thrilled to wake up to a zombie in his face. The zombies can get to him though, because they are outside the cage, and a voice from inside tells him to relax, as they can't touch him, and he will soon get used to them anyway. The woman asks if the dummy yelling in the cell is a friend of his, pointing to Junjae, who, unlike them, is making a ruckus, and requests that he politely ask Junjae to shut his trap, but he reveals that there's no way in hell Junjae would listen to him. The woman then concludes that he must be some sort of bully, which is spot on. She points to the intelligent zombie who is just sitting in front of them and creepily staring with scary focus, revealing that it's actually experimenting on them by quietly observing how humans behave when exposed to zombies. Or that's her theory anyway. She believes that he zombifies survivors he deems worthless, and then captures the ones that seem interesting, like Hyunho and his buddy. She reveals that she's like a precious lab rat for him, because she worked for the Center for Disease Control as the head of the Department of the Infection Research Center, Hyunmi Lee. She believes he's only keeping her alive because he thinks she knows something about the zombies. But in truth, she knows absolutely nothing except for the fact that it's a virus, which is pretty common knowledge. That's just how it is with science and unknown viruses. They can't explain this one just like they still can't explain the plague from 600 years ago. There is no cure for this virus. Hyunmi Lee shamefully admits that even with all their brains and research, they could never actually identify the first patient, because the virus first disguised itself as the flu and was transmitted through respiratory fluids like sneezing, which she has to demonstrate to a disgusted Hyunho, but she assures him that she was tested and she's definitely not a carrier. Anyway, that's how it was transmitted, and everyone treated it like it was a normal cold, so they carried on with their lives with no idea that it was the beginning of the end. At the school, one of the students on watch duty sneezes because it's so cold at night, and then they notice a light coming from below them, from the library. They debate on whom they should tell, and decide to tell their captain since they trust him more. Once the captain gets the report, he promises to go check it out and wonders if it was the same person as earlier. He debates if he should come clean and tell everyone that he was actually helped the last time he went to the first floor, but then the lights go out, and the students begin to panic, because there's nothing scarier to teenagers than a power outage. Seong-hun, who's in the library, also experiences the power outage, so he studies a book on how to use an emergency generator. The captain considers telling Mr. Huang, the school nurse, as going to the first floor in darkness would be a lot worse, but the nurse is catching up on some dream time. Seong-hun, on the other hand, makes his way through the hallways filled with zombies, downstairs to where the emergency generator lies. He finds it, fills it up with gasoline, and turns it on. Just as the captain hears the sound of the generator, the power comes back on. The students immediately assume it was all the captain's handiwork since the nurse is still asleep, but he knows it was definitely his zombie helper at work. When they question him about it, he decides to lie and take credit again, keeping that piece of information to himself for the meantime, and the students praise him because of this. Meanwhile, the actual being responsible for their newfound joy continues doing his thing in the library, totally unbothered. Hyunmi Lee explains that the virus, once thought to be a cold, goes through an incubation period before the first mutation, which is invisible to the naked eye, but the victim has already begun the zombification process. The only difference is that this stage comes with severe depressive symptoms. Even then, there was no way they could have known, since the flu and depression were among the most common illnesses at the time, and you could develop a cure for baldness in the time spent worrying about this. The infected experienced symptoms like depression, latency, and an unquenchable thirst, and soon the only thing they could think of was the taste of human flesh. By then, the virus had already started spreading rapidly. The bodily fluids entered a victim's bloodstream through the bite of an infected, and that's how the virus spread. It was at this time that news of aggressiveness began to circulate, with the media now giving it more attention. For some reason, these zombies aim for the arteries in the neck, but there are also arteries in the wrist, which would be a much easier target. They prefer the neck, probably because it is directly connected to the brain. The victims medically die but then resurrect and lose the use of bodily functions, depending solely on the autonomic nervous system. In other words, they become zombified. When Hyunmi Lee's job collapsed, it left her with no answers except for the fact that the primary infections led to the secondary infection, which they now know as the zombie virus. It didn't matter though, because in the end, the virus spread faster than the news about it, and some people got zombified without even knowing of the primary mutation. All they knew was that if you get bit, you become one of them. A whistle interrupts Hyunmi Lee's little zombie crash course, and the zombies stop immediately as well. She is confused, but Hyunho reveals that the intelligent zombie must have found a way to train them using psychological conditioning, so she's genuinely impressed with its intelligence. The smart zombie makes his way to Junjae's cage, where he's still making a lot of noise, and opens it, ordering him to come out, with that twisted look on his face. We get another note explaining the zombie virus and its relationship to the flu. Hyunmi Lee is shocked to see a zombie talk, but Hyunho has seen it talk before, so it's not a total shocker. Once Junjae is let out, he's more than ready to take the zombie on, but the zombie reveals that he's not the target and brings out a more familiar face, a zombified Hong Jun, to the horror of the three humans. It's Hong Jun alright, but now zombified, with duct tape on his mouth and a burning rage for revenge in his eyes. For a minute, Junjae can't tell if he's out to get back at him or if he's just another one of the brainless zombies sniffing for its next meal, but he doesn't wait to find out and attacks first with a punch to the zombie's face. He doesn't wait for it to recover and overwhelms it with attack after attack until it's had enough and goes in for an attack itself. Junjae tries to defend with his bare hands but struggles, and it gets him right where it wants him, with his neck ripe for biting, but the duct tape gets in the way. Junjae uses that opportunity to punch him off his body. He then continues his rain of punches in hopes of finally taking out Hong Jun's zombie. It takes a lot of damage but keeps standing, and eventually it stops his punches in their tracks, and then serves Junjae a taste of his own medicine with a hard punch to the face that really sinks in, probably forcefully evicting some teeth and sending him to the ground. Hyunmi Lee had thought she had seen everything until she witnessed zombie Hong Jun throw down a massive punch on Junjae like that. Hyunho thinks that maybe it's because it remembers its humanity, because the punch seems a lot more personal, and she highly doubts that, although she admits that habits might linger on, like when you learn how to ride a bicycle. The two begin to wrestle on the ground, and soon enough Junjae is begging for help like an overgrown crybaby. Hyunmi Lee is surprised that Hyunho isn't doing much to help his fellow classmate, but he explains that he couldn't even if he wanted to because they are still trapped in a cage, and besides, he really doesn't want to, considering how he's been treated by those douchebags, and who can blame him? Junjae manages to push the zombie away from him and tries to crawl away, but it gets a hold of his leg and snaps it like a twig. That puts him in maddening pain, so he now seriously begs for his life. Hyunmi Lee reckons that the rush of adrenaline probably powered that punch, as it is nearly impossible to escape a zombie once it gets hold of you. Just then, the sound of the zombie ripping off the duct tape from its mouth terrifies the caged duo, and they're forced to watch the poor bully get bitten by his ex-BFF. Hyunho notices that the intelligent zombie seems extremely satisfied with the show and begins to wonder if it really understands the relationship between a bully and a victim as it turns off the lights, like it's trying to signify that the curtains have closed on the show. At the school, Seong-hoon scribbles down facts about the zombies and their reactions to blood, and when he decides that he needs a sample, he makes his way to a refrigerator where he finds blood bags of different types. Even with his nose and mouth sealed, he can still feel the intense lust for blood in his body. Meanwhile, Some students gather around Sujin as she packs in preparation to leave first thing in the morning. They try to convince her to stay with them, but she explains that even though it's safe here, with enough food and protection from the teachers, the probability of a rescue team coming to find them is quite low, and she would much rather go find a transport plane that could transport her to a permanent shelter with other survivors. The idea of a resting place sounds appealing to the girls and some other students as well, and they start to gather around and voice their requests to tag along with her. We get another note explaining that zombies think blood is tasty for some reason and that it activates their brain and senses, but not why. It's a beautiful morning, and Hyan Ho, who obviously didn't sleep well, wakes up to find the doors of his cage open with no zombies in sight. He quickly wakes the doctor, who warns him that it might be a trap, but there's really nobody in sight, and it looks way too good to be true. On the other hand, the captain is shocked to see that some students suddenly want to follow Sujin, and she makes it clear that it was all their choice, and she didn't force anybody to do anything. The nurse is cold as usual about the whole situation and grants them permission, but he warns them that whoever leaves the school in his protection can never return. With that turn of events, the captain decides to follow them on their little school field trip of life and death. Seong-hoon takes a blood bag and spills some of it on the floor, making a trail. And just as he had hoped, once the zombies get a whiff of the blood, they are immediately drawn to it and come crawling to him. And just like that, our MC unlocks a new skill, zombie taming. The captain slowly opens the door leading downstairs a little and takes a peep outside, but he shuts it right back even though he doesn't see any zombies nearby. He had acted all cocky and brave in front of the kids and taken credit for stuff he didn't actually do, but now it is time for him to actually prove it. He takes a step back and does a roll call in a desperate attempt to buy time, and he counts 10 of them about to exit the building, including Sujin. He asks her for a plan, and she admits that she had not expected so many people to tag along, so she made some changes to her original plan. Since there are 10 of them, she reckons they would need a van, so she volunteers to go find one. Sujin immediately leaps into action, jumping out the window and onto the school grounds. The first thing Sujin notices is that there are no zombies around, which is good, but definitely odd. All the zombies are gathered around Seong-hoon and his blood samples, but they're starting to lose interest and grow weak again. He tries to open another pack, but his muscles won't do what he tells them to as he still has difficulty controlling them. So he accidentally rips the blood bag open and some gets on his clothes. Our old zombie buddy Jae-seong rushes to have a taste, but Seong-hoon smartly evades his bite, and he's not the only one with the idea, as other zombies want to bite too, and one actually gets to him, but she can't bite through as Seong-hoon had intelligently wrapped his limbs with lots of duct tape. It might not hurt to get bitten as a zombie, but that doesn't mean any chewed off limbs will grow back, and you can never be too careful during a zombie apocalypse. Even his precious zombie Yeon-ae shows up and bites him. Like biting him once wasn't enough for her. Seong-hoon notices that even after the second blood pack, the zombies still lose energy after a short while, and he wonders if it's because the blood is cold, but it's still hard for him to contain himself, so he wonders if he should have a taste as well. He takes off his duct tape mask, and the sweet aroma of the blood fills him up, and suddenly even his own blood-stained arm is looking quite appetizing to him. But he knows he has to control himself, so he takes just a lick of blood, and it drives him absolutely mental. He feels a rush to lick the entire ground, but he manages to control his urges even though it's killing him inside. It's tasty, but not like food, more like quenching a thirst that has been there for far too long. With no zombies around, Sujin has no trouble checking the vans until she finds one that's open and about the right size to fit everybody. She drives it to the school and honks at everyone to come out, as there are no zombies in the area for now. The captain offers to go first, which is awfully not so brave of him, and when he confirms that there are actually no more zombies, he beckons the rest of the students to join him. The students are scared as hell, but they also trust their teacher, so they follow suit, and soon they make it to the van and start loading in. A student is worried that the zombies will come out of nowhere and attack, and she probably just jinxed it, because at that moment, the zombies with Seong-hoon get a whiff of their human scent and rush towards them. This confuses Seong-hoon, who thought the blood would have held them for longer, so he deduces that the quenching of thirst for them must have been only temporary. But he forgot to recover his nose and mouth with duct tape, so the smell gets to him as well, and he goes full zombie mode. We get another note, this time explaining that the zombies have weaker and shorter reactions to cold blood, but the warmer the blood, the better, and they do not eat but bite, and once they do, their urges are relieved. The students are still loading into the van when they and their captain notice the huge horde of zombies now heading their way. He pushes the last remaining student through the trunk of the van and yells at Sujin to get them out of there, but the van engine does the most disappointing thing and stops. The zombies swarm the vehicle on all sides, and Sujin tries multiple times to restart the engine, but it won't budge. Seong-hoon makes it to the scene and attacks the driver's window where Sujin is, and the rest of the gang try as much as possible to keep the zombies out. The van still won't start, and more zombies start to flood the van, threatening to tilt it over and putting all the students in absolute terror. But then Sujin takes a really good look at Seong-hoon's face and sees a hint of emotion, like discomfort or a weak facial expression. Just then the engine starts, and they zoom out of there as quickly as they can, throwing off all the zombies that had surrounded them. But to her horror, Sujin catches a glance of something chasing them in the car's side mirror, and it's none other than our main zombie, Xiong-hun. Xiong-hun chases after them like a total maniac, and he really wants to stop, but his body just won't listen to him. He takes a huge leap and aims for the moving van, and it looks like he's not going to make it, so he grabs onto Ji-won's leg, the student who had entered the trunk of the car, and yanks him out of the van. The rest can do nothing but watch in horror as they zoom off and leave their friend and schoolmate behind with a zombie, and he watches in absolute terror as they leave without him. Xiong-hun is ready to feast, but he uses all the strength he can muster to try and control himself. He tries really hard, hesitating enough for Ji-won to escape, but Ji-won is struck with fear and can't move. When Xiong-hun glances at his ever-appetizing neck, he can't hold himself back any longer and gives in to his urges, biting him deeply against his will. As the van drives out, everyone sits in silence as they mourn the loss of their friend. Then Soo-jin tells the captain to shut the trunk door, which is probably what they should have done immediately after stepping into the van, and he obeys. Xiong-hun looks with disgust at the monster he has just created, and the nurse and the students remaining in the school observe everything from a window. This only reinforces the nurse's decision to stay in the school where it's safe, because even though it may seem there's hope and information outside, it's not worth the risk of being exposed to dangers. He believes he has a strong weapon and will to protect everyone in the building, but he makes it clear that that drive does not extend to anyone who leaves, and the students promise never to leave the school and his protection. They're way too afraid to do so now anyway. Seong-hun is angry with himself as he sees the zombie he created stand up and begin doing normal zombie things. He begs for Ji-won's forgiveness in tears and just stands there watching him in regret. Meanwhile, the van hits a stop because there are way too many cars on the road, an outcome Soo-jin hadn't predicted. A student suggests that they take the bicycle path along the Han River, as that road is normally clear of vehicles, and that seems like a good idea, except the river itself is a big problem, so Soo-jin believes it's better they try to find a way in between the parked cars. While all this is going on, Hyun-ho and Hunmi Lee escape from the cages and are now making their way towards the airport. Hyunmi Lee acknowledges his intelligence for choosing the train path as the safest road option, but he denies being anything but a loser at school who always got picked on. She recognizes him as a study-type student and encourages him to continue on his path of knowledge so that one day he will surpass his bullies, just like she did. He is shocked that she was also bullied in school, and she doesn't appreciate being called a lady. She prefers professor, since she technically has her degree. She informs him that the only way to be successful is by studying hard, because that's how she got to where she is. He points out that that doesn't make much sense in a world full of zombies, but she assures him that if people like her still exist, a solution will be found and the world will get better. After all, humanity survived a plague that took out more than 1/3 of the population 600 years ago, so she has no doubt they can overcome this as well. Just then, he notices a pair of eyes peeking at him from one of the train windows, and upon a closer look, he is shocked to discover that it's not just a survivor, but a child as well. He informs Hyunmi Lee about the kid, but is dismayed to find out that she doesn't really care, as she doesn't think they have the luxury of randomly picking up every survivor they come across. It's worse that it's just a little kid who could prove to be a burden and slow them down in the long run, so she's more than ready to continue on their way. Hyun-ho peeks into the train and sees just the boy and one dead zombie, and to the professor's irritation, he makes a promise to the boy to get him out, plainly ignoring everything Hyunmi Lee just said. She is curious how a weak boy like him intends to save another weak boy, and he reveals that just because he was picked on doesn't mean he won't help others who are in need. Just then, we get another note, explaining how it is impossible for zombies to resist the urge to bite, and the need for another control method. So Hyun-ho takes a huge boulder, and after telling the boy to give him some space, he uses it to smash through the window, granting him access to the train. He beckons to the boy to follow him out, but the boy wants his mommy to come too. Hyun-ho desperately hopes he's not referring to the dead zombie, but he is, and she's actually an alive zombie who wants to attack them. The zombie mom tries to attack them, but it can't because, for some reason, its legs are tied to the door rail of the train. The boy identifies her as his mommy, but Hyun-ho desperately tries to convince him that that thing is definitely not his mommy. After much struggle, the zombie mom manages to get herself free and immediately comes for them, even though her leg is broken. He tries to take the kid and head for the door, but there's another zombie just waiting for them there. So Hyun-ho begins to panic as he realizes that they've been cornered with one zombie blocking the entrance. The professor grabs a fire extinguisher nearby and sneaks up on the zombie that's blocking the entrance, then attacks it from behind and keeps attacking it until there's nothing left. The professor creates a path for them and they escape the train, but not without the little kid burning the image of his zombie mom into his head. And for a moment it seems like she's actually sad for him, but no one will know as they shut the door and exit the area. They make their escape, and Hyun-ho has to carry the boy, thanking Professor Hyunmi Lee for having a change of heart and coming back to save them. She asks for the boy's name, and he identifies himself as Kyun-bit Han, and when she asks how long he has been in the train, he tells her that he has been there for 10 days, which is just terrible for a small child, but he reveals that he actually has crackers and water to eat, as he and his mom were on their way to the zoo when they got attacked and trapped. He tells his story of how his mom hurt her leg and got bit by the zombies, so they had to hide in the train, and Hyun-ho and the professor are confused as to how the woman didn't attack her child when she turned. It turns out that the mom, although hurt, bit through the pain and managed to comfort her son to keep him from panicking and being psychologically scarred for life. She lied that she was okay when she was on the edge of turning into a zombie and told him to eat his crackers and wait for help. While she used her own shoelace to tie herself to the door rail, she told her boy to play a little game with her where he had to stay away from her and wave to any strangers that passed by. And in tears, she told him not to let her get close to him, or she'd take away his crackers. That's the last thing she said to him before she finally lost it and turned. He eventually got tired of the game and begged his mom to turn back, but she didn't because she couldn't, and that is the end of his very sad story. The duo couldn't even begin to imagine the pain the mother must have gone through, so they carry him along on their journey to the airport. We get another note, this time explaining a theory that's trying to find if there's a way to stop the zombies from attacking for a prolonged period, even if they're constantly exposed to blood. The party finally reaches their destination, and the professor can't believe that there's a military base there, but Hyun-ho explains that not many know about it, and he only does because he used to live around here. She asks why he's not going home, and he's about to reply, but they're interrupted by a drone that hovers above them. Professor Hyun-mi Lee gets excited and rushes forward in hopes of finding more survivors, and once she reaches, she's pleasantly surprised to find the door open, but once she eventually opens it, what she sees horrifies both her and Hyun-ho. A huge horde of military zombies rushes out to attack them, and they try to close the door, but the force on the other side is much more than their combined power, so they can't shut it, and the zombies start to slip out. Then they hear a voice from above. It's the actual military this time, and they are loaded with guns, so they order them to stand back while they rain bullets on the zombies. Meanwhile, back with the students in the van, Sujin is still trying to find a way in between parked cars scattered around on the street, and in one of those cars, the students see a dead man and assume that the zombies got to him. On closer inspection, they realize that the poor fella actually took his own life, and there are many more people who did the same. They don't blame them though, as it's understandable that some people would want to go out as a human instead of living like zombies, although not everyone agrees with that, as some believe that one should fight to the very end and never give up. Just then, a noise from the radio interrupts their little debate, and it's a message for any survivors out there.